Today we are going to discuss in this lecture about the modulation, that what is basically the modulation is, and what are its benefits, and what types of the modulations are possible. So the first thing is the modulation. What is modulation? The process of the process of changing the characteristics of high frequency carrier signal with respect to the baseband modulated baseband message signal. That is known as the modulation. So we can write the main block diagram of the modulation. Suppose we have a message signal that is m of t. So this one is the message signal. So the message signal is being modulated by using a modulator, and at the modulation, both like the carrier and the message signal are being processed here at the modulator, and then you will end up with the modulated signal. So this message signal is also known as baseband signal, and this one is also known as pass band signal. So carrier is CT, so this one is MT, and this one is phi of t, so that is the modulated signal. So you know that the characteristics of the carrier, like the amplitude of the carrier, the frequency of the carrier, remains constant, remains fixed, and like you can say, they are deterministic. So they are fixed, but here the amplitude of the message signal, so this is random. So it means that the modulator signal is being random as well, and the randomness of the modulator signal is controlled by the randomness of the baseband signal. Like you are varying the baseband signal, and based on that baseband signal, the carrier and the frequency or the phase of the carrier signal is going to be varied, and then you can give the name based on the variation of these different components. So what are the basic advantages or benefits of doing these modulations? The first one is that you can do the transmission over a long distance. You can do the transmission over a long distance, which is not possible for only using the baseband signal. The second one is that, so this one is less interference due to the noise. So less noise, interference. The third one is that multiplexing is possible. Like you can transmit many messages using multiplexing in using a same bandwidth. is from the same channel. But if you are not doing modulation, so it means that you cannot transmit many messages at the same time. The other benefit is that reduced antenna height, because we know that the height of the antenna is dependent on the wavelength, and for mathematically you can write h is equals to lambda over 4, and we know that lambda is directly inversely proportional to the frequency of the carrier. So that is why if you keep increasing the frequency, the lambda will be decreased. If the lambda will be decreased, the height of the antenna will be decreased. So these are the few benefits of having a modulations. So what are different types of the modulations? Like there are many types of the modulations. First one is the analog modulation, and then the second one is the digital modulation. The analog modulation is further subdivided into amplitude modulation, and then angle modulation, and then you have pulse modulations. The angle modulation is further subdivided into other two type of modulations, that is frequency modulation and the phase modulation. Similarly, the pulse modulation is further subdivided into the pulse code modulation, delta modulation, and adaptive delta modulation. Similarly, the digital modulation, so this one was basically the pulse modulation. This one was pulse modulation, basically divided into the pulse amplitude modulation, pulse width modulations, and pulse position modulation. But the digital modulation is further subdivided into pulse code modulations, delta modulations, and adaptive delta modulations. So this is the low frequency digital modulations. We will cover the high frequency digital modulation in some other lectures. So if we wanna further discuss about the AM modulations, so AM modulation, so suppose we have MT is your message signal, and your message signal is something like that, a sinusoidal message signal, and then your carrier signal is represented by CT. The amplitude of the message signal is AM, and the amplitude of the carrier signal is so the amplitude, you can see that the